live? Yeah. To be continued. Why is he starting so early? You're starting now?
Right.
It's been real, man.
Good evening, everybody. I want to again wish a refuah shlema. And we have a special speaker tonight. We're very excited to hear from Alex. But before we do so, I want to remind everyone that last week we introduced a new project to join with the International Shabbos Project. And if you haven't done so yet, if you'd like to get one of those free magnet light switch covers, we'll happily give one to you, to our friends online. Just go to our website, we'll mail it to you, torchweb.org. Right in the front there's a banner, click on it, fill out your information, and we'll have it shipped to you. If you're here, you can also go on the website and we'll give it to you. Additionally, we have a special program coming up December 22nd. Over here, we're going to have Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi here at the Torah Center. You're all welcome to join. We're looking forward to seeing you. There are many, many other programs that are coming up. We're really excited about them. Don't forget that if you need a copy of the Torch YP newsletter in your local synagogue, you can just let us know. We'll make sure that we get it to you. But they should be distributed in all the local synagogues. It's a fantastic newsletter with great divrei Torah from our young professionals and, of course, our average rabbi. And above average. Good job, guys. And without any further ado, Alex, please.
Hello, my name is Alex. I don't have any experience in public speaking. I speak like once in 10 years. I think this is my first time. I hope I'm not going to embarrass myself so much in front of this public, who is very, there are a lot of very learned people in this audience. When Rabbi Wolpe and Haliva approached me about speaking, I kind of was trying to dismiss him because I told them that my life is pretty boring, actually, nothing exciting, and nobody can learn anything from me. But they said, well, everybody brings some kind of value, and they were pretty convincing, so it was easier to say yes. So, and then of course, So then I didn't really know what to talk about, and like last week I was studying with Meir, and Meir is a very wise man, and I was questioning to him that, man, I have no words of wisdom, what I'm going to do, it's going to be a complete disaster. And he said, well, why don't you speak about what brought you to Torch and why you keep coming here, maybe speak a bit about yourself, and I guess I can talk about myself a bit. So, what brought me to Torch? Actually, Haviva. So I took a few classes a couple of years ago at Torch with Rabbi Wolpe, and ended up, I guess, on the distribution list. And I got a call from Haviva, and she mentioned to me that she's setting up Partners in Torah, or the Torch is setting up Partners in Torah program, and if I want to participate, they have a partner. And I said, well, is it going to take? What kind of commitment is it going to take? And she said, well, it will take commitment. I said, man, I have commitment issues. I cannot commit. But if you know Habiba, she's relentless and she's a very convincing person. So I said, yes, okay. And I had a few partners, and eventually, sometimes I would skip a few months, but I kind of would always miss. And now I have a very wonderful partner, David, who I learn from every day, and I'm very happy to see after a few weeks when he went to a wedding. Great to have you back. So I guess I want to talk a bit about myself. I was born in Minsk, Belarus, which is was at the time part of the former Soviet Union. And my initial view of being Jewish was actually quite negative. So in Russia, Judaism is not, being Jewish is not viewed as a religion. It's an ethnicity or a nationality. In some ways it's a scarlet letter. So you go to kindergarten and you're Jewish, or you're not a Jewish, but you're a Jew. But the kids in the kindergarten or elementary school, they basically talk all this negative and bad stories about Jews, and as a kid you wonder why. I mean, oh my God, what happened? Why was created this way, and and you kind of take it to your parents, and they're confused themselves and don't know what to answer to this because they're outnumbered. If you have a fight with a kid, say in the yard or at we used to spend summers at the country house. Russians call it dacha. And and you prevail, and he would run off, and he calls you Žid, which is a derogatory term for Jews. So, and of course, you go through this Russian propaganda where I think up until 7 years of age, I didn't believe in God, but my mom and my grandmother, they convinced me otherwise. My parents got divorced when I was young, my mom's side of the family was kind of living in areas where Jews were always a minority. So they were pretty confused about Judaism. My father was, he had a lot more joyful view of Jews because he grew up in a shtetl environment in the Soviet Union, the city of Bobruisk, and there were a lot of Jews, and Jews were outnumbering Russians. And actually, frankly, Russians were used to Jews, and even if they didn't like the Jews, they were scared to voice because Jews were more numerous. And so he told me all these stories about Jewish weddings and his friends and all the funny things that happened. And actually shidduchs, and actually some people still observe Judaism, and there were people that were keeping kosher and even had bris. So in Russia, to have a bris on a male child, or in Soviet Union, was a very brave thing. Because literally, I think parents could have gone to prison because it was a criminal act. Yeah. But since I was growing up with my mom, I had, looking back, didn't have much of Jewish upbringing because they probably, my grandpa, he went to Jewish school, but he quit quite early. But my mom had no Jewish knowledge. I would remember that they would mention Pesach, and it was around the time of Jewish or Russian Orthodox Easter. And they would celebrate Pesach with baking this cake. They call it kulich, which you don't eat chometz on Pesach, and we did, and eat painted eggs and stuff like that. And looking back now, I thought now that I think I've been a bit more educated. Looking back now, well, first of all, I don't realize why Russians were so negative and apprehensive towards Jews because 500,000 brave Jewish men and women they fought fascists during World War II, and as always, as quite often, Jews have punched above their percentage of populations in contribution toward science and medicine and cultural achievements in the Soviet Union. And most of the time, Jews were quite more moral than average population. And also, I thought, my family just completely forgot or really didn't have any link to being Jewish at all, except for like a stamp and a passport. Now I realize it was probably more complex than that. I used to find some Jewish texts in my grandma's drawer that she was hiding from my grandpa. Or, for instance, we always had matzah in the house. And actually, my mom told me that my communist grandpa, who told me that he didn't believe in God and this whole religion was nonsense, he would not let anybody cut mine or my cousin's hair up until we were 3, and then he took us to Jewish barber. And of course, we didn't have a celebration ceremony, but we did have long hair until we were 3. After that, I came to the U.S., and there it was quite surprising. Well, you don't have to hide the fact that you're a Jew. It's great. And went to college, was part of Hillel. Actually met Nate about 20 years ago, and his dad. Went to Israel on the birthright trip, which was pretty awesome, but this high, emotional high didn't really last. And then once I got out of college, I kind of just, life took on, and I sort of just forgot about any link to Jewish people and just went on with my life. But in my 30s, of course, I had some life changes, and you start to search for a meaning. And And what started to bother me that in this, in the year 2000, whatever, 2010 or 2012, I'm still a Jew, right? It's quite a miracle, living in the Soviet Union. And I realized that I was not ready to completely, abandon this and be separated from my people. And as luck would have it, I met Chabad Rabbi Yossi. I started going to synagogue every once in a while, and that's what brought me to Torch, because once you try something, you want to learn a bit more, and then of course Habiba convinced me to come to Partners in Torah. So why I come to Partners in Torah? Well, I like the people actually, and I met a lot of new friends, and also since I have never been a part of majority Jewish community, it allows me to be kind of a part of community, because we go, so we study all year and we go through all the life cycle events, and you kind of experience these events for the first time over the years. You cannot experience them all in 1 year. So that's pretty nice. I'm picking up new traditions. Well, I like studying with my partner David a lot. I learn new things like I learned that you cannot leave minyan when a Kaddish or is recited or Torah is read, and so to avoid otherwise God would destroy you. So naturally, I'm a lot more conscious about it. But as far as going forward, I don't know if I really have enough strength to stick with it. I hope I will, because it's hard. Truly, thinking some things, they seem like insurmountable tasks, like not tying your shoes on Shabbat, or praying 3 times a week, and or really keeping a kosher kitchen. But we take one day at a time. What Sukkot is the festival of uncertainty. Just trust in in higher being, and just do one thing at a time. And of course, I have snafus. Like the other day, I publicly poured water on the grass during Shabbat, and then I was quiet. He said, "Man, what are you doing?" "What do you mean what I'm doing? It's water. It likes grass." And as far as what I'm learning from this journey, actually I had a pretty big paradigm shift. Sorry, I have an accent. It's like East Texas accent, or Russian accent. And in the past, I really wanted to have just, I would say, a normal life, right? Have a big Mercedes or whatever, big house, and generally wanted to have very self-serving goals, and impress people around me. What I start to realize through the studies and being around, people here, who are large majority of them are menches, I'm not sure what is the mensch term for a lady, or this whole world is not about me, really. I have a role to play. There is a plan for me, but I need to be conscious about how my behavior and even my thoughts impact the others around me. And sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes I give in to what my animal soul wants, and I kind of feel bad about it. Try to learn how to, keep it under control. And so that's pretty much, basically I also understand sometimes when things are not going well in my life, I shouldn't really, complain too much or something like that. It is a test. I also have to look at the bigger picture, because this is a beautiful world with a lot of beautiful people, and even sometimes things are not going so smooth in my life. They're probably they're going smooth for so many people, and there are so many wonderful things in this world, and I just have to look at that and just to expand my picture. So I guess through this journey, I'm working on trying to be less focused on I and more focused on me being part of the team. So that's really all I have to say.
Great speaker. Have you in? My name is Mostovitz. We have some vodka in that closet right there. Thank you so much. You can continue learning. Again, speedy recovery for Yitzhak Leib and Brana Fagel. And have a good night. Drive safely.
Young professional menches. Or menches. Yeah. No, you get a badge? He said